Well, it is time to finally rebuild my, let's see, how many years old? I got this in about 05, so what, that's 14 years. The screen has all gone crazed. I've had it apart once to fix the center button, actually, which stopped working, and it turns out that because of the heat this thing was being subjected to in my vehicle, the little rubber foam pad underneath the center push button had gone off center, and it lost its ability to select stuff. So I've had it apart. Obviously keeping the back because I had it engraved when I bought it from Apple. It's 80 gig right now, platter drive, and we are going to make it into iFlash. And you can't see them, but there are 4 128 micro SDs, so I'm going to have roughly 500 gig of music space. I'm also putting in a fresh battery, and because of that front face, I got a new one. So when I come back, we'll see where I'm at. So we are inside of the iPod video. I don't know if it's considered to be a 5.5 or a 5 video, I'm not sure. So cleaned out a little bit of mung and crap inside this. This is the back case, and I got to put the battery in yet, but before I do, I just make sure, I see it through my magnifier here, that I just check the tightness of those screws. There's 2 of them up here on the headphone jack, and that the ribbons are all secure and intact. This is where the battery goes, right here. The one problem I do have, however, is that my little white plastic piece where you plug in the, what are they, is it a 30 pin or something connector, is right here, and it's a very delicate little part, and I've seen them sold on eBay. Mine has a break right, you can hardly see it, I'm trying to get the camera to focus here, but mine has a break right there. You can just kind of see it moving. So I'm going to very carefully put some adhesive on that, and then I may build up the area around that screw hole, because it looks like something has torqued that slightly and caused a small piece of that black or that white plastic to break off. So I may build that up with a little bit of either epoxy or maybe some baking soda and crazy glue, and then I may have to very carefully re-drill with a little hand drill, just a bit, that hole for that screw, and it attaches right there. There's 2 raised bosses on the inside of the case where those screws thread in. As far as the front part, I have not taken off the front case yet, and all it entails is 6 small Phillips on each side. Okay, so I'm going to replace that next, so it's ready to go, and I don't think anything looks too dirty or anything inside the rest of the guts of it. I love this iPod because it's one of the last, if not the last one, I believe, that used the Wolfson DAC digital audio converter, and it puts out better audio than a lot of what's out there after it. So I'll be right back. This is Creative Adhesive 101, so baking soda and crazy glue. And we try to build up the area where the plastic was broken away, and then I'm just going to snip away at those excess pieces. And I think I avoided getting glue into the actual screw hole, but if I didn't, I'll use a tiny drill to clean it out. This is the whatever you want to call it, plastic buffer around the 30-pin connector. And I've got it all built up now with crazy glue and baking soda. And now I take a fine Dremel tip and I clean away what I do not need. I need to open it up so it'll take, it'll sit in over that boss on the threaded boss on the inside of the case. So I'll be back again. Right, so this is the front case off. There are, and I'm not taking any responsibility for anybody that looks at this and decides to tackle it. I don't get into a lot of details on how to take it apart because there are plenty of videos out there already. But just be aware that there's your click wheel. There's that little tiny piece of, basically it's a little piece of rubber that sits on top of that blister switch or whatever you want to call it there. And if you can hear it, and that's what came off the center of that switch a couple years ago when I had to take this apart the first time. When you take that front face off, even though you take the 6 screws out, there are also these tabs that have to unclip from this, I don't know if that's aluminum or some kind of metal chassis. And be aware of that. So I'm going to give this screen just a little light cleaning to make sure there's no dust on it, and then I'm going to place the new front on. And don't forget to put your center switch back in when you put the case on. Things to note when you're putting a new face on. Firstly, keep the protective layer on. Secondly, make sure you got your center button lined up. There's 4 little notches that fit into the back side of the wheel. And most importantly, when you put your 6 screws back on each side, don't tighten them down on the one side before you insert them and screw them in on the other side, because it's just manufactured with enough tolerance that if you tighten the ones down on one side, you won't get the holes to line up on the other side, and then you'll get stripped or cross-threaded screws. Yeah, ask me how I know that. So loosen them off, but keep them slightly threaded on one side, and then you got to press down on the chassis on a flat surface so that the holes will line up. All right, back case, new battery in, has a nice little layer of 3M adhesive. So just give that a firm push in there, and I would make sure that it's right to the front of the case here too, so it's firmly up against the switch on top of the iPod and the headphone area. Okay, and next up's next. Next we put the new memory in. Okay, so the hardest part of all this so far isn't anything to do with putting the new memory in. It was trying to repair with crazy glue and baking soda this piece. I'm going to have to elongate that hole just slightly more and possibly down a bit in this orientation anyway. But I've managed to build up this right side of it here, and we'll see what happens. And there we go. Back together. No longer 80. Now it's 512 or whatever. And as much as I tried to fix that damn thing, I may have to pop the case off again and put a new one in. Just not happy with it. And they do sell them, so I'm going to have to order one offline. But she is now ready to connect to the computer and restore. So that's pretty cool to see. 475.99.
Please say a command.
Play fuck buttons.
Playing hardest fuck buttons.